Ema Peter, welcome to Driven. Thank you so much for being here. I so appreciate you taking the time. So
Of course.
Thank you.
I'm fascinated by what you're doing, so I'm very excited to be here as well.
Well, thank you so much. I would love to begin with you sharing a little bit about who you are and what invigorates you.
Absolutely. So, I'm an architectural photographer. I call myself an architectural photojournalist because my background is photojournalism, and I kind of followed the path of Henri Cartier-Bresson, decisive moment. I wanted to be in the hot zones. I wanted to actually cover zones which actually showcase what is happening in the world at the moment. But of course, moving to Canada, I didn't have that opportunity. So I moved more and more into architecture. So now I'm calling myself architectural photojournalist because I really want to combine the two styles and make sure that people see architecture, but they see the humans inside and see the human scale as well.
I love that. Yeah. And what invigorates you?
Oh my God. When I'm looking outside, what invigorates me is clouds, to be honest. Like the clouds are moving outside. So to be honest, I'm excited about life. I'm excited every day about just about everything. I think the one thing I didn't lose, that almost like childlike excitement for seeing the world new, seeing the world over and over again. But finding something beautiful to look at every single day. And I think this is really important in photography as well. So I think the key thing for me is I hope I never lose that sensation of life has to be seen over and over and over again in a new way.
That childlike wonder, right?
Childlike wonder. You had it today. You were talking about it today. And I think the clouds help tremendously because you see almost like art in the sky every single day. And you're reminded that there's so much beauty that we kind of miss in our everyday life because we're too busy with ourselves, with our heads, with our emotions. But there's so much more. We just see 1% of what is out there.
We'll get into the clouds and the story of it all. I would really love to just begin with talking about your background. You were born in Sofia, Bulgaria. What was life like there before you moved to Canada? And I'd love to hear about the story of how you got into photography.
So I grew up in a family which was really deeply rooted in the film industry. My dad was a film cameraman, and my mom was the chief expert of the Bulgarian of the Filmmakers Union of the Bulgaria. So she knew absolutely everyone. He knew everyone. So from very early age, I was the kid that was sleeping at the back of the vans full of equipment. I watched these incredibly passionate people work all day and kind of visualize their ideas. And then afterwards, they talked about their ideas all night. They drank and talked about their ideas.
And you were there.
And I was there. I was there until 3:00 in the morning, just listening. And I remember how fascinated I was by that world, especially in a communist country where we had so little freedom. I was in the freedom bubble because the movie industry somehow was always left to operate in a different way. So my dad used to make not a lot of money though. So in his spare time, he used to go and photograph schools.
Okay.
And in the evenings, like in between productions, he would black out our kitchen and we would print together. So I remember the darkroom when I was 5, 6 years old and my first camera. And I still remember when he would expose the paper and put it in the developer. My first reaction when I would see the image come up on that paper, on that blank sheet of paper, I thought it's magic. I thought it's such magic. And every time I press the shutter, to this day, I think you just need to feel that magic. And I always do. I have to say, I always do.
And there, you talked about the whole communist aspect and, the aspect of the fact that there was a lot of kind of creative restrictions. And what was that really like to experience at such a young age, especially with someone or, two family members really engulfed in that industry?
So we had a lot of issues because my dad refused to be a member of the Communist Party. So everything I heard at home, I had to keep quiet. And that's why I'm a really good friend up to this day. I never share any secrets. But it was a tough time. It was a time of oppression. And in many ways, when the regime fell and when Eastern Europe kind of started having all of this massive protests, I was dragged on the streets with my parents absolutely everywhere. And I'll never forget the moment when we found out people that were sitting in our living room on parties used to write down everything that was said and give it to the regime. They literally listened to everything that was said in my house. So in many ways, I appreciate freedom on a completely different level, because especially when the regime fell, we suddenly ended up in this crazy hyperinflation, crazy situation where we had absolutely no money. There was like huge lineups with coupons to buy bread. So nowadays when I'm listening to people here tell me how hard their life is, I'm sometimes going back to where my mom's salary was enough for a piece of cheese.
Wow. So very difficult beginnings, very humble beginnings. I would love to know, what is one of the most beautiful and greatest lessons that you learned from your parents growing up in that environment?
They never, ever, I never felt like there is anything wrong. They lived like there is no communist regime. They lived in such a free way, even when they were restricted. So in many ways, what I learned is you make life yourself. Even in the hardest situations, you can actually create your own world in your own environment. And maybe like when I'm talking, actually, I'm thinking one of my favorite quotes, it's your mind that creates the world. And now that I'm talking to you, I'm thinking, okay, this is what they did. They created their own world in an environment that was really, really harsh. So maybe that's the lesson. Maybe we all need to actually, every morning, I tell myself, what are you going to create today? What is the world that you'll create today? And maybe that's the biggest thing I've learned from them.
That's so beautiful. Thank you for sharing.
Right.
I'd love to talk about your career and just your journey in, being a creative and everything that you've done. If you could give our listeners just a bit of background as to where you started, where you went to school, etc.
So I went to the National Academy of Theatre and Film Art, which is one of the big film universities in Europe. Really, like only 6 people a year are accepted in photography. About 6, 7 are accepted in cinematography. So it's super hard to get in. We had 6 different tests to be able to get to the class.
Why is it so difficult to get in?
Because every teacher takes just a small class. They teach only the best. That's about it. You have to have it before you even get in the school, and then they refine it.
Okay.
And we were a very small class. I was the only girl. I was the only girl in the whole year of both cinematographers and photographers. So it was a really strange environment because I had to be competitive. I had to be competitive on a different level. And our professor, who was an incredible man, he used to tear my images, like printed images, 2 minutes before an opening of exhibition and say, it's not good enough. Go again. And there was no crying. You were just competitive. You were going to do better. You're going to do more. And I think this type of a work ethic is so important because you just keep pushing. That's it. You don't have any other option.
And do you feel like that was really instilled in you since the beginning as a young girl?
100%. I think that when you see your parents suffer in many ways, because as much as I didn't want to see it, there was never money, nothing was ever enough. It was a struggle. So it gives you that purpose to actually make their life better. And my purpose was that. My purpose was to be able to support parents, grandparents, anyone that I can financially somehow help. And it becomes somehow a way of life. Like it becomes your goal to make someone's life better. And like I was come back to those days now because we talk about self-improvement and I need time for me. I need time for the full moon or for health days and I'm thinking everything is about I. Nothing is about we. Like we have this culture, crazy culture about you need to manifest your life, you need to do things, but it's all about yourself. How about you manifest for other people? How about we actually do something? And this is where I'm a little bit scared about the way the world is moving. I think we're moving into a culture that I don't specifically subscribe to.
We'll get more into that shortly in terms of mindset and life and such. But tell me about what happened after school. You pursued photojournalism. I'd love to hear a little bit more about that journey.
For sure. So my biggest dream was to be a photojournalist. And my professor, who was one of the most incredible guys, he passed away 5-6 years ago. He was one of the most pure people who took photos for the sake of just capturing moments. He lived in a small village. He didn't have any financial means. He lived for photography. That was about it. His biggest dream was to meet Henri Cartier-Bresson. That was his biggest idol. It was one of the things he dreamt about. And suddenly when I got accepted to be an intern in Magnum Photo Agency, and Bresson was still alive, and his wife, Martin Frank, like she was my kind of mentor who actually looked at my images. And I met Bresson, and it was such an incredible, I think he lived through me all of those experiences. And I'll never forget ending up in Paris after living in Eastern Europe really all of my life. And suddenly you end up in Paris, and I'll never forget my first night. I went to a party, to an opening of an exhibition. Somewhere in Paris, I didn't even know where I am at night. And suddenly all of the people that I studied in history of photography,
were there.
Kudelka, Abbas, like René Bory, like all of them were there. And I thought, it almost felt, there is a movie called Midnight in Paris with Owen Wilson. He goes back and he visits different eras where he meets Fitzgerald, where he meets Hemingway. He goes to Belle Epoque. I felt that night. I had too much champagne afterwards, so going back, because it was so absolutely surreal. And those are the moments you think dreams come true. And Paris was one of those experiences. They gave us, I didn't have money for film. I never had money for film. So they gave us 3 slide films, 24 slide films a month.
Wow.
So you have 3 24-frame slide films a month, and then they send them to Switzerland to be developed. Do you know when you press the shutter and when you have 24 frames, every shot matters. And to this day, I always think every image has to matter. Everything you do has to matter. You can't just exist from the perspective of, I'm someone who lives life and enjoys life. What you do has to have purpose, and it has to matter. And that's why I've surrounded myself with people that actually has that passion and purpose. And for me, the entire experience in Paris, because we would be shoved in the archives to select images for the first 3 months, all I did was select images. And I remember there was no digital archive, so we were going through boxes and boxes of the work of some of the best photographers in the world. And I'll never forget, whatever spare time I had was going and photographing. And I'll never forget walking out on the streets, and there was a point where everything was a photo. Literally, like every single moment I looked anywhere, I could see a photo. And I thought I'm going crazy, 100%. But then I realized the eye is a muscle. And how we train our bodies, we can train our eyes as well to see the most beautiful moments, or to find those decisive moments that I was looking for.
And this was also from, studying, like you said, the 2,000 or 3,000 photos per day,
Yes.
which is so extraordinary.
Yeah.
To anyone who doesn't know, Cartier-Bresson is a master when it comes to candid photography. He also really started street photography.
He did, yes.
And Magnum is essentially, as far as I realize, please correct me if I'm wrong, kind of the ultimate place to go for anyone
It is.
in that industry, correct?
It's exactly the top 80 photojournalists of the world at that point. And this is on September 11th. I was there when September 11th happened.
Wow.
So we saw firsthand all the photos that came out from there. So being in Magnum was another level. It was another planet. And to this day, this experience have kind of marked me so much in the most positive way. Because when you get to the point where you actually can see the contact sheets of Cartier-Bresson and see how he caught the decisive moment and understand the logic behind actually catching that magic of the everyday life, you understand life in a different way, at least as a photographer.
What happened after Magnum?
So after Magnum, I moved to Turkey. Okay. I got married, moved to Turkey, which was another incredible experience for me in Ankara. And then we moved to North America, where I was overqualified when I arrived here. This is what they told me. I'm 24, I'm overqualified, and I don't have Canadian experience. So if you tell me how you get Canadian experience when you've just arrived, I have no idea. But it was such a different situation because suddenly I went from the really the streets of Paris and Sofia. And I mean, as a student, we were fighting against the government. I was on the streets. I slept on the streets for days, and we were against the army. And suddenly you come to Canada and everything is this really peaceful, very polite place. So I had a really hard time adjusting. And I also knocked on every door to find a job, and nobody gave me a job.
What was that like, experiencing a new country and a new place as someone who was really growing a lot in her career and has established herself, to now go to a place where
nobody pays you attention? To be honest, I truly believe in the never give up, never surrender, moment. It wasn't easy because I had nobody. I didn't have social environment. Didn't have anyone, but I printed resumes. We printed, and I went and I knocked on every door, everywhere. I in Bulgaria, I was a TV presenter on national television as well. I tried a TV, I tried newspapers, I tried absolutely everywhere. I just didn't stop pushing forward to actually try to get to those places that I wanted to be. And at the end, the firm VRX Studios, who they were the providers for Expedia for all the imagery, I just entered through their door with my huge portfolio, huge black and white portfolio of clashes in Eastern Europe. And they were the first people that paid me any attention.
What door was that?
It was VRX.
That you know, how many doors had you knocked on before you
I
hit
would say
VRX?
over 100.
Over 100. Okay.
Over 100 doors. And I kept pushing because I was like, okay, there's no way this is the end. This is the beginning. And also, in Eastern Europe, we also have this perception of the American dream, of Canadian dream. And if you get to there and you kind of give up, that was going to be quite wild. But a lot of people do, because it is extremely hard. And it's extremely hard for us, not from a perspective of finding the work, but finding the environment and the people. Because for me, the people are more important. Once I found my environment of people, I felt so much more comfortable.
So the aspect of pushing and being tenacious has been something that has been in you from the beginning. Talk to me about your journey with VRX Studios and how your career really grew from there. From there.
Well, VRX would send you around the world to photograph hotels and resorts. I mean, that was, for me, was a dream job. And they would pay me a day what I was paid for 2 months being on national television. So for me, it was almost wild, the fact that we had that situation. And I wanted to show them that I can do so well. But of course, the training was in the US. And imagine someone with a Bulgarian passport being allowed in the US. So that was a big no. I got refused American visa because they told me I'm a potential illegal immigrant at that point. And VRX didn't give up. They said, you're too talented for us to give up. So they sent me to Mexico. So my beginning was Mexico. And that's why I always relate to Mexico so much. And I want to go back, and I love the Mexican architects, and I love everything connected with Mexico, because somehow this was where the door opened for me. You said door opens, but that was the door opening for me, being on my own. Sometimes driving 4 hours through the jungle to get from one place to another. There was absolutely no sense of fear, because I didn't know that I should have any fear factor in these beautiful places. I just went everywhere, and I did absolutely everything. And the one thing I did is I wanted to prove to them that they have done the right thing by hiring me. So I worked 10 times more than anyone else. And this is where I became a head of photography fairly quickly. And then it was a completely different case scenario. I was part of the business side. I would be there pitching to Hiltons and Fairmonts and doing guidelines for huge brands and advertising shoots. So it taught me business.
So you were on the creative side, but also the business development, which is really
the business development team. So the business development manager, the CEO, the CFO, they all took me with them.
That's incredible.
They saw that I can sit down and actually, we were talking about this, when you have passion for something, it comes out no matter what meetings you're in or what you're doing. And I feel this is exactly what was happening. Like, I literally would sit down on the table and I'll engage people with what I think we should be doing for photography. And then from then it was just very easy for us to get the deals. We got every deal that we went to.
Were you you were head of photography and you traveled around the world. Did you have a crew of people that you would travel with regularly, or did you often
do it on your own?
Yeah.
Yes. So the way VRX operate is they would send the photographers on their own. So you're going to a 5-star resort with equipment, and you have to organize absolutely everything. Sometimes, I mean, imagine a swimming pool that people have paid thousands of dollars to be laying around. And here's a photographer that wants to arrange all the chairs and wait for the perfect light. So it taught me to talk to anyone, from the grumpy tourist to the housekeeping team, to everyone. To get the shot was super important. So I kept doing everything I can. And I learned that the only way you can do your best is by managing to convince people that what you're doing is important.
Talk to me about your relationship with fear.
Okay, so fear. So the one thing for me that I notice, and this has happened over and over again, I don't think I'm good enough. I always feel in my head, am I good enough? Am I going to make it justice? And I think that you can actually have failure out of that. Like, and as I told you, I don't truly believe in that word. Failure is not a word that I don't ever kind of use it in my daily life. But I have seen fear make people lose the ground under their feet completely. You can take that fear and make it a drive. And every day when I think, okay, am I making it a justice? Am I good enough in what I'm doing? It accelerates me so fast and so high that I think probably portion of the success factor here is the fact that I take something that is supposed to be a bad word, fear, stress, all of those, and you put a different lens to it. You put a happiness lens to the fear, and then it becomes a drive. And I think if we all use our weaknesses and look at them in a different way, why is stress bad? Who told us all of this? Like, we have perceptions that are could be completely wrong. Completely wrong. So I'm always trying to go back and to figure out how exactly I can take words or feelings that I feel are not good and turn them into something good.
No, totally. It is really all about perspective and mindset and how we choose to think and act and live our lives. And I wanted to ask you about fear because I know that since the beginning with you, you've always been I don't want to say ballsy per se, but you've never let fear or anything stop you from taking these spectacular shots. You've hung out the side of a building, but I know you've also mentioned to me some other moments where you're in the middle of nowhere with a driver or going somewhere, or with your camera, just going to the set or the specific location. And there's been countless moments in your life where, again, the aspect of fear could really take over the narrative, but it has not. Can you share a little bit of those kind of maybe fearful moments that one could perhaps feel, but you instead have taken them as moments to be more motivated or invigorated in what you're doing?
Well, and this is the other thing, because I'm so focused on getting the shot in so many ways, I don't understand the danger until after, when I actually think about it. I was 8 months pregnant on a cherry picker, harnessed, with a guy that didn't know what he's doing, and the entire thing tipped over. So we didn't fall, but it literally, he stopped it once it tipped over. And I was like, okay, now that I'm thinking about it, when I'm telling those stories, I'm like, what were you thinking? But what was I thinking was the shot. I wasn't thinking. And I think this is, we did a safety course recently, so now we know exactly if we fall down, how exactly what to do with the harness, how exactly to not stop your blood circulation and all of this. So, but in most cases, I mean, even you were saying, like the 3 men in Mexico, I got in a van with 3 men in Mexico, and I realized you cannot open the doors from inside. And I had a bit of a prayer moment, but at the same time, the thing I thought about was, I can take them on. I mean, you have to be really crazy to actually think like this. But there is a sense of an adventure that comes with actually doing all of this and being on the edges of buildings, and the adrenaline that you get out of it is so phenomenal that's why when I'm kind of not doing shoots, or I'm not doing something super exciting, often I think it's boring. And that's why I need the same challenge. It needs to come from people. So the people that are around me either have to challenge me, or somehow they're not in my realm as much. So the people that are closest to me really, truly challenge me on a daily basis, whether it's with challenging how I'm thinking or challenging what I'm doing. So the people that I'm the closest with are those.
Who are those people?
Okay, so I have a group of very close friends that are designers and architects, but I have Gail Guevara, Andre McLean. They're all designers and architects. Michael Green, always. We have very long conversations about life with him. Michael Leckie, Tinu Matter, who's one of the CEOs of one of the big travel companies. They're all people that really challenge life and challenge the way life operates.
And that's where you draw a lot of your inspiration, is when you actually have the conversations that are outside of architectural photography, and it's more based on philosophy or
100%. Yeah, Clinton Cunnington, Measured Architecture. We talk about everything. And the way he talks about life is so different as well. He do you know something very simple recently? It's not about photography. I mean, we speak about so much about architecture and photography, but we were sitting on his deck in his house on one of the Gulf Islands, and he was looking with his app in his feet to look at this constellation. And I was like, what are you doing? And he said, Emma, the stars are under our feet. And I know that the planet is round and the stars are everywhere. But the concept that your stars are in your feet makes you feel like you can achieve anything somehow. Like, the stars are not only above. You cannot shine only above. You can, like, it's everywhere around you. You can really take from that energy. And like, little groundbreaking moments like this, whether they're personal or whether they're about architecture, it really changes the way you think about life. And I love those type of people because they really make me feel there is more.
I love that so much. And, you really are a product of the people that you surround yourself with, right? And the things that you consume and what you listen to, what you read. So that really resonates with me as well as a creative and someone who is really passionate about what I do. It's, you want to, in those moments where you're, doubting yourself or struggling, it's helpful to not only have a really incredible and strong mindset.
You do, yes.
But also an incredible group of people around you.
It is. They charge me big time.
Amazing. I would love to dive into the art of architectural photography. Yep. What is that to you as Ema Peter?
Well, I always wanted to see somehow the future. Even when I was young, I wanted to see what's going to happen in the future. And somehow the people that I work with, they're extremely progressive. And the way they look at architecture is they think about everything from the sustainability factor to the shapes to everything. It gives me that glimpse of the future. And I'll never forget seeing in Paris Corbusier's work. And I was thinking, oh my God, when Paris was built with this really ornate, crazy buildings, he was building this crazy modern architecture. And this is where you understand being around visionaries that can show you a little glimpses of the future. And in many ways, when I'm working with the architects, I can actually see that. And for me, this is so important because our life is so short. We don't have a lot of time. So somehow seeing what the future holds through the eyes of architects I work with and designers is such a gift. You do get transported in different places. And especially now when everything is moving so fast with climate and the way, what are we leaving to our kids? I somehow feel being surrounded and traveling around the world shows me that our group of architects here in Vancouver are absolutely exceptional. Because when you think about everyone here, they think about sustainability, they think about building with wood, they think about local makers, they think about pretty much everything. And I don't see this in many of the countries around the world that I photograph.
Why do you think that is?
I think here people are very, very, very conscious about the environment because they're surrounded by nature.
Okay.
I feel like there is such a connection between the Canadian architects and nature that in many ways they're trying to preserve that nature. We're surrounded by ocean, by mountain, by trees, by forests. I think that this is the culture that is being created, and it's a very beautiful culture. And it's so funny because they're so critical towards their work. But I kind of almost challenge them to go anywhere around the world to see the level of architecture so they can come back here and understand that this group is absolutely exceptional in the way they do things.
Speaking of exceptional work and the beauty of nature, particularly in Canada, you mentioned a home that you shot, I believe it was in the Gulf Islands, Tony Robbins. You were particularly inspired in that moment. And was that the moment that you thought to yourself, okay, I want to pursue architectural photography, but perhaps have my own twist, perhaps add a little bit of the photojournalistic side with integrating more people in that? Was that the moment?
I think that with Tony Robbins, that is the future. That house that I photographed, that was the moment I thought, wow, like I almost had tears in my eyes. I remember thinking, this is exceptional. So with his work, I almost didn't need to add the people because it was so incredible as it is. And you needed to show that pure form and that imagination. I think that the people really come for me, especially in the commercial projects and in the residential, when I put one person somewhere in the shots or I follow a family. Sometimes we follow families as well. But I think that the most impactful shots are when you have one person because you can imagine being that person. You know, like somehow putting a female figure or a male figure somewhere in the distance. Our goal as architectural photographers is to actually make people want to be there. You know, and in the commercial projects, I just love following the chaos. Love it. We just did Portland Airport. And actually there, I had to recreate chaos. We hired 40 models before the airport opens.
Wow.
And I had to literally position them everywhere to look like a fully functional airport. It was a film production in the middle of a construction still.
Wow.
Because they were still finishing. And talk about strength. I tore my calf muscle in the middle of the shoot.
Okay.
And it turned out that I had COVID as well at that time. And I literally kept going. And I'll never forget, right after I tore it, I had to be outside to do a desk shot. So you're photographing the from outside towards the building, and you need to put people in the shots. And here I am on a cherry picker with a torn calf muscle, with a guy who's operating the cherry picker, who every time they move, my shot gets blurred because it's dusk. It's like right pre-night. And I'm on the phone with a production coordinator inside, telling her where to put the people, while there is a plane landing at the background. And literally all I can hear is the plane landing and the sound. And I'm like, okay, how crazy can this situation get? I'm on one foot with steel-toed boots. It was such a crazy situation. I have to tell you, I thrive out of those. I do. I think the more crisis that comes in, the better and more focused I can actually be.
What's been the most chaotic shoot that you've ever done?
So probably that was the one, because of how I felt. But I would say not chaotic, but because I do take control. I can control the situations. But I would say a shot that I really thought about, what am I doing, was 2-hour lightning storm in Mexico. We were photographing a resort, and we were told there's small crocodiles in the mangrove that we were photographing. So it's night, it's a lightning storm. And they said that there is a jaguar, like not the car, the real thing, in the next door property. So, and I'm with a metal tripod running around and kind of around the mangrove. I was thinking, I can get hit by a lightning, eaten by a crocodile or a jaguar. And here I am. And the most exciting thing for me is the fact that the entire building gets lit by this insane lightning storm. And this is never going to repeat. So no matter what the situation is, it is incredibly exciting. At least for me. I'm always, the more chaos, the better.
I love that. I would really love to chat more about architectural photography itself. And your work is, extraordinary, and has been in front of thousands of really reputable names and eyes. What, in your opinion, makes your photography unique compared to everyone else?
I think it's light. I think that I have a specific sense of light, and this happened from very early age. I remember one of my most favorite things was when we would travel somewhere in a train, because we didn't have a car. For me to actually close my eyes, and when the shadow and light goes through your eyes, that sensation is still to this day one of the most beautiful for me. I can now, even when I close my eyes, if the level of light even slightly adjusts, I can totally feel it. So for me, I know how to chase the light, and I know how to catch the light. And I think this is kind of, when I look at the other people's work and my work, I think one of the key things is I'm a light chaser. Like totally. Like I will catch moments, which I'll never forget. There is an image of a diver in Surrey, one of the Surrey swimming pools. And it was this beautiful shadow of a tree that was happening on the translucent panels. And then you have the diver jumping. And those are the moments when you realize your eye's just so sensitive towards those incredible moments of light. And then when you actually add to that decisive moment that Bresson did somehow in your images, and then it's magic, because you can really feel it. And I think this is my biggest goal, is for people to actually really feel the images.
Not just take them without thinking about it, like on an iPhone or whatever,
you have
a camera.
To feel it. And I think nowadays, especially when 1 billion images is uploaded, every single day in social media, in all of the publications, how do you stop people in their track? So you need to create something that has an emotional response. It's not just something that is okay. Or, oh yeah, here's a beautiful building. No, it can't be a beautiful building. You have to feel the wind in the hair of the woman that is like in the shot. You need to feel somehow the sense of zen or love or home or beauty surrounding. Like, you can't just photograph for the sake of photographing. There's just no way.
Mm-hmm.
So it's kind of combination of my desire to catch the moment and kind of more the sensitivity towards the light.
I listened to a interview that you were on, and you were sharing your experience with when you have difficulty in finding those perfect light moments. You know, there's been moments where there's been atmospheric rivers.
Yes.
You've still found the courage, and you've still had that drive to still shoot.
Yeah.
What has a moment like that been like for you?
It's pivoting points. So and we've spoke about this, when you're pushed to do something completely different, like photographing in rain or in cloudy, or your initial reaction, because you're told that this is not how you should photograph. By whom? It's like the same with rule of thirds and all of this stuff. You can put the person in the middle of the frame.
Yeah, what do you think about all that?
Who decided all of this? I mean, okay, fine. Like, there was an academy probably like in the UK that was 40 people years and years ago, that actually they were the ones deciding whether your painting will be in the like eye level or it will be at the bottom, you know, like the stories, like they were the ones deciding on all of this. But it just, who decides that there are rules?
I love that.
Like, there are no rules.
Yeah.
Rules are just because we are taught to follow something, but why are you following anything? So for me, it's like exactly the opposite. Try to do something that will completely ignore the rules. You have to do it. And I'll never forget, like, I talk about this a lot because, like, when I'm asked to photograph something that I'm like, okay, this is not going to work. But why is it not going to work? Have you tried? Try it. If it doesn't work, try it again. And then maybe then you can say, okay, like, maybe this is not my style. But I don't believe in this.
Well, also too, I think something to point out to people who maybe aren't in your world or follow you is that, you know, when it comes to being an architectural photographer, you're on set, you're shooting for 12 plus hours a day, searching for the light, searching for that moment.
Exactly.
And I'm sure for other people, it's probably very easy to just give up and just say, oh, we've got a terrible light day, or this isn't working, or that isn't working. But you've always found a way to capture.
You have to.
Something so beautifully, right?
You have to, because, like, you know, I always think about it this way. You need to prove yourself. There's no one else to prove but yourself. You need to prove that there are no impossible things. Because, like, you're the person that needs to know these things. And then the others follow. You know, when you truly believe in the impossible, what, like, it's not a word again. Is it impossible? You know, it's just words.
Have you always had this mindset? Have you always had this, like, high level of confidence in yourself?
I've had high confidence in photography. I think I've always had. I'm from the lucky people that knows exactly what they want. I knew it when I was 6. You know, that's luck. And, like, I'm always fascinated when I'm listening about people being put in those situations where from a very early age, they know their passion, and then they're given the opportunity. Like, my dad gave me a camera. Like, what happened with Steve Jobs, or like they were just in the right time at the right place. And this is why Malcolm Gladwell and Outliers is a book that everybody should read. If you have children, especially, you should read it, because giving your child an opportunity to actually do what they're passionate about sets them up for life.
Versus putting them into a box at such a young age and saying, oh, this looks good, this is something you should do. Yeah. Instead of just letting them play and be free.
Exactly.
Right?
Like you just need to know where their interests are, and just give them the means and the opportunities to actually try everything. And then from then on, all you need to do is encourage, and they will find their passion one way or another. And this is the problem, I think, a lot. Like in Eastern Europe, you had to choose your path. There was no, oh, I'm going to be this today and this tomorrow and something else the next day. You chose to be a lawyer. You're a lawyer.
You decide.
That's it. Yeah. There is no two ways about it, So in many ways, I feel this was a plus for us, because we just didn't have a choice. You chose your passion from early on and you stick to it. And then the 10,000 hours, probably in Eastern Europe, if they make a calculation, how many people have reached the 10,000 hours? A lot of people have reached it, because we all work on one thing. We all really are put in this lineal type of a perspective that you just keep going. That's it.
Speaking of one thing, I thought it was really interesting to learn that, but also not surprising in a way, because you really focus on, what your area of expertise is, which is photography and shooting. And I was really, in a way, surprised to learn that you don't do any of your editing. You have 3 full-time editors, and your craft is behind the camera.
I don't believe, which I was proven wrong though recently, I don't believe in actually splitting your time. When you're a writer, you're a writer. And you write. You sit down and you write. I think in photography, everybody's asking me, oh, can you photograph a wedding? I can. Can I do it well? Probably not, because I'm so focused in one field. And when you're so focused in one field, you actually can toy with everything because you're so familiar with it. Then it just becomes like clay. You can just mold it.
Yeah.
You can do something completely different. And I feel this comes with knowing one field. But, and I keep saying this on talks and this and that, how important the niche is. There is a East Indian photographer that just proved me completely wrong. He's incredible at wedding. He's incredible at photojournalism. He's incredible at architecture. He's incredible at everything. And I asked him, and he said, Emma, we don't have a choice. You have to be everything because you need to feed a family. We don't have enough architects that I can actually work for. And this is a privilege. You actually realize that it's a privilege to do just one thing. So now of course, I'm never going to say this again, that you shouldn't be doing a million things, because if the need makes you do a million things, you should. But I truly believe that when you know one craft so well, you can actually experiment. And if you're uncomfortable, if you're comfortable being uncomfortable.
But to be fair, you worked extremely hard to get to the place where you're at today. You've sacrificed. You've gone through so many different things in your life to be Ema Peter, to be the one who really, let's be honest, is the number one choice for anyone to shoot any sort of commercial property or residential property in the world. So yeah, you've certainly, I don't want to say even earned a spot, but I think you've certainly proved yourself beyond belief with your tenacity and strength. And what has it been like being a woman in this industry, with it being so male dominated, having to prove yourself, to fight for your rates, to be where you're at today?
Well, I think I'm from the lucky people that I almost feel the level of respect towards me is so high from men that they've never made me feel less. in any way or shape. I never even thought about I'm a female until the whole, like in architectural photography, until I just hear it over and over and over and over again from everyone else. You know, like it's becoming, so growing up in Eastern Europe, there is no male, female. Everybody works. Like, you know, like it just, nobody's put in a situation where because they're female, they have to feel in a specific way. But I probably wouldn't even notice it. Not that I haven't been in strange situations, believe me, I have. But especially the architects here in Vancouver, the level of respect I get out of them, they respect my opinion. They respect the way I look at things. So in many ways, I've always felt here in Vancouver, I felt like a peer, like someone who's exactly on the same level. But I know this is not the experience for a lot of women. So in many ways, I just wonder whether that upbringing of always being in Eastern Europe, everybody, there were female directors when I was growing up. There were female cinematographers. There was no such thing as because you're a guy, you get more, you know, like it just, there was no such thing. So I think this set me up in a completely different way, but I can totally see how females don't photograph a lot of the commercial projects. It's a lot more residential that female photograph. And we've spoken a lot on female groups. Why is this happening? And a lot of women think that when you have kids, the perception is
things change.
That you need to go home at the end of the night to be with your children. And that comes, that's a completely different ballgame from a perspective of perceptions, because who decided again all of this? You know? And this is where barriers are broken, is when you actually start challenging the status quo. And you know, progressive architects hire female photographers, progressive architects. And this is where I feel I've been very, very lucky. But it is hard to get the commercial projects for other female photographers. This is the key thing that I hear over and over again.
Can you share some of the sacrifices that you've had to make over your lifetime in order to be where you're at today?
There's no sleep, number one. I don't think I sleep much, but it's mainly the sacrifices have been, I was back to work 3 months after I gave birth to my older son and 10 days after I gave birth to my younger. Yes. I was on a scout 10 days later. Wow. And I remember I tried not to explain to people anything, but somebody asked me, how old are your kids? And I thought, okay, I'll start with the 4.5, and they'll never hear the 10 days, but they did. So everybody turned to me and said, you need to sit down. I remember this so clearly. But you know, like, I hope my boys will grow up seeing someone who follows their dreams. And this is a discussion I had today with Michael Green, actually. We were talking about, I was asking him, what can I do to motivate my kids, to explain to them that passion that I have? And he said, you've already done it. They're watching you every single day. And I really hope they'll one day, all of the days that I haven't been home, because I'm out a lot and I'm out very late. And sometimes, has it crossed my mind? Have I missed out? It has. But at the same time, I always think one day, hopefully, they will follow their passion the same way I follow mine.
Do you feel any sense of guilt, or do you feel like you take the former mindset that you just mentioned and, again, take that narrative into one that's positive?
I would say I have felt guilt a couple of times, especially when you're going on a shoot and you're kind of, you know that you're not going to see them go to bed, or I have, but it's very rare. Because again, I still truly believe that, passion is something that hopefully will make them thrive as well.
Totally. And it is something that is so worth pursuing. And I think you are an incredible example of someone who, really values family, but also values having a career, pursuing things that invigorate you,
Absolutely,
creating impact, standing up for what you want, and being unapologetic while doing so.
You cannot apologize, because if you choose a path, just follow that path.
Yeah.
Regrets are something, I mean, after this moment, the moment is gone.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the past is gone. You can't change anything. The key thing is to be able to actually look forward, or just be in this moment, just appreciate the moment. And I try to teach them that a lot.
Of being in the moment, of not always focusing on what's next, do you mean?
Yes, because, do you know, we always focus on the final result. We want to imagine how we have won the award, we have gone to the trip, we have done all of these things, but okay, what about the journey to getting there? You know, like, I think one of the most amazing things is to appreciate every step of the way to getting to where you want to be. And I think that we actually, as humans, we think this is work. We think the final result is the glory, whether it's money or it's like success or it's like awards or whatever it is. It's the everyday we need to appreciate, because we are alive, and this is not a general rehearsal. It's happening now, you know? So in many ways, I feel people don't fully grasp the fact that we should appreciate a lot more every step we take, rather than just dream of stuff that they'll happen,
but may never happen, because at the end of the day, there's no promise of tomorrow. Right?
There's no promise of tomorrow. Like, if you enjoy today, that's the important part.
Totally. Tell me something that a lot of people don't know about you.
Okay, what do a lot of people don't know about me? I think I'm actually quite an open book. Like, in many ways, whatever is in my heart, this is what I preach. I've had my fair share of struggles. I mean, if somebody knows exactly what's happened in my personal life in the last 5 years, it's definitely been an uphill battle, but at the same time, I never ever believe that whatever's happening in your personal life should be affecting the way you feel about your passions and especially in my case, my passion is my work.
There's going to be a lot of people who really idolize you, who look up to you, particularly photographers. What would you say to a young photographer right now, or any advice that you would give them?
Follow your own path. Do photography for the sake of enjoying taking the shot. It's become such a commercial world. I see young photographers going around taking photos of buildings and then tagging the architect, thinking that the architect doesn't have already photos of this building, or those photos haven't been done before. Try to find something unique, or unique perspectives that nobody has seen. If I was starting right now, I would have done full research on specific building. And then I would go, if I have the time, and try to find angles that nobody has found. Not try to repeat the glory shots. And I feel this is what happens a lot nowadays. When you think about Magnum, I was an apprentice. I literally did apprenticeship. I didn't just start and become well known. I did the work. But nowadays, this doesn't exist.
You did the work versus kind of the entitlement sort of mindset in a way here now, where people go to the top of the top to get a job versus working from. Is that what you mean? Or
this is what I mean, because before, I remember coming to Canada and thinking, okay, architecture is my thing, and working for VRX every single day, photographing hotels for years. And even then, I didn't feel like I'm good enough to be contacting architects. I started from the bottom. I would start from small builders, which I still work with. The people that gave me a chance 20 years ago, I still work with them now. But literally, you start from experiencing the work for people that actually won't have the same expectations as the architects will. And when you do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 projects under your belt, you start actually understanding the craft a lot more. But I feel what's happening a lot with the younger generation that comes out, They literally think, I have social media, I can do this, I can tag everybody, and that's it. But that's not it. Do something wildly unique if you want to be seen immediately. Or if you can't, just try to build on it and then show that something very unique. It just doesn't work. Somebody asked me, how did I become an overnight success? And I was like, let me tell you.
It's been a 20-year journey,
It's
right?
a 20-year journey. Like, it is a ton of work. So I don't fully grasp that whole idea. Architects and photographers years ago, they used to sit down together, look at the shot together, look at the contact sheets done together, choose the images together.
Mm-hmm.
Time was so much slower. We need to go back, far back. Life has become in many ways, too fast, too easy. I call it digititis. Literally, people press the shutter until they find a shot that actually works. We should go back. So if I do one day a course somewhere in a university, I think I'm going to do it on film. And I'm going to give them 30 frames. And this is what they have to shoot a whole building. Make it count.
I love that so much. Our motto, our theme at Driven, whether it's the podcast or the agency, is not only about elevating stories to inspire lives, but I've really created this company and this podcast to really make people realize that there is truly no one else like them. Yeah. And I would really love to know, what does it mean when I say to you, there's no one else like you?
Somebody recently told me about the situation I was in, you're not unique. And my first thought was like, I am unique. And I truly believe as people, we have so many incredible experiences that we have gone through that they have made us in many ways special, all of us, very, very special, because it's not only who we are at the moment, but it's what we've gone through, what we've seen, what are our emotions, how we've changed, what we've learned. It's the grit, it's the passion, it's the kind of desire to never give up, and that sensation of life happens because I make it happen somehow. My life is my life. I create my own world. I said it a couple of times. When you actually realize that you're the main character in your own movie, this is how you need to look at yourself. Like, because I think we as people spend a lot of time playing that secondary role. And the moment you realize you're the main character in your own movie, this is when things change. When you actually understand that we have a very short period of time given to us. And we have to just enjoy every single moment of it.
And
you don't have time.
Yeah. We don't have time. And to do the things that you truly light you on fire. Right?
There was a quote that I read recently. I cannot say the whole quote, and I cannot pronounce the name of the person who said it. I will find it, and later on I'll give it to you. But it says, later you grow up, later you grow old, later you understand that now is the time to do all of the things that you want to do, because there will be a moment in time where we'll be too old and we'll be sitting and thinking, have I done it all? And I think this is my biggest actually kind of drive as well, is the fact that there is not enough time to experience everything that you want to experience. So why not? Why are you not experiencing it?
What a way to end, Ema. Oh my gosh, thank you so much for this conversation. I would love for you to just share where's the best place for people to find you, learn more about you, and what's next for Ema Peter.
Yeah, I mean, easiest way to find me is Instagram, of course. Crazy tag. It's Ema Photography with a PHI at the end, because the rest wasn't available. And it's my website, which is emapeter.com. And what's next? I mean, I'm going to be flying everywhere in the world. I'm like literally like in the next little while, there's a lot of flights, including Saudi Arabia, which I am very excited to go to and experience. But what's next? I will continue be the main character in my own movie. That's my goal forever.
Amazing. Well, I look forward to continuing to follow your journey. You're truly inspirational.
Thank you so much. Thank you.